The part meant to be rented out had been specially decorated. On the terrace, 26, a rather spacious one, between the street entrance and the rooms inside, stood several bitter orange, lemon, and jasmine trees in big green wooden tubs, which amounted, by Lebedev's reckoning, to a most enchanting look. He had acquired some of these trees along with the dacha, and he was so charmed by the effect they produced on the terrace that he decided, when the chance came, to complete the set by purchasing more of the same trees in tubs at an auction. When all the trees were finally transported to the dacha and put in place, Lebedev several times that day ran down the steps of the terrace to the street and admired his domain from there, each time mentally increasing the sum he proposed to ask from his future tenant. Weakened, anguished, and physically shattered, the prince liked the dacha very much. Incidentally, on the day of the move to Pavlovsk, that is, on the third day after his fit, the prince already had the outward look of an almost healthy man, though he felt that he had still not recovered inwardly. He was glad of everyone he saw around him during those 3 days, glad of Kolya, who hardly ever left his side, glad of Lebedev's whole family, minus the nephew, who had disappeared somewhere, glad of Lebedev himself. He was even pleased to receive General Ivolgin, who had visited him still in the city. On the day of the move, which took place in the evening, quite a few guests gathered around him on the terrace. First came Ganya, whom the prince barely recognized, he had changed so much and grown so thin in all that time. Then Varya and Tin appeared, who also had a dacha in Pavlovsk. As for General Ivolgin, he was at Lebedev's almost uninterruptedly, and had probably even moved along with him. Lebedev tried to keep him away from the prince and near himself. He treated him in a comradely way. Evidently they had long been acquainted. The prince noticed that during those 3 days they sometimes got into long conversations with each other, often shouted and argued, it seemed, even about learned subjects, which evidently gave Lebedev pleasure. One might even have thought that he needed the general. Yet with regard to the prince, he took the same precautions with his own family as with the general. Once they had moved to the dacha, he allowed no one to go near the prince, under the pretext of not disturbing him, stamped his feet, ran in pursuit of his daughters, not excepting Vera and the baby, At the first suspicion that they had gone out to the terrace where the prince was, despite all the prince's request not to chase anyone away. First, there won't be any respectfulness if I spoil them like that, and second, it's even improper for them, he finally explained, to the prince's direct question. But why? The prince exhorted him. You really torment me by all this watching and guarding. I'm bored being alone, I've told you several times, and you weary me still more with all this ceaseless arm waving and tiptoeing about. The prince was hinting at the fact that Lebedev, though he chased everyone in the house away from him, under the guise of preserving the peace necessary for the sick man, kept going into the prince's room himself almost every moment during all those 3 days, and each time would first open the door, put his head in, look around the room as if making sure that he was there, that he had not escaped, and only then, on tiptoe, with slow and stealthy steps, would approach his armchair, so that on occasion he unintentionally frightened his tenant. He ceaselessly inquired whether he needed anything, and when the prince finally began asking to be left alone, Lebedev would turn obediently and silently, make his way on tiptoe back to the door, waving his arms all the while, as if to let him know that it was just so, that he would not say a word, and that here he was going out, and he would not come back, and yet, in 10 minutes or at the most a quarter of an hour, he would come back. Kolya, who had free access to the prince, thereby provoked the deepest distress and even wounded indignation in Lebedev. Kolya noticed that Lebedev spent as much as half an hour by the door, eavesdropping on what he and the prince were talking about, of which he naturally informed the prince. It's as if you've appropriated me, the way you keep me under lock and key, the prince protested. At least at the dacha, I want it to be otherwise, and rest assured that I will receive whomever I like and go wherever I like. Without the slightest doubt, Lebedev waved his arms. The prince looked him up and down intently. And tell me, Lukian Timofeyevich, that little cupboard of yours, which you had hanging over the head of your bed, did you bring it here? No, I didn't. Can you have left it there? It was impossible to take it without tearing it from the wall. It's firmly attached. Perhaps there's one like it here? Even better, that's why I bought this dacha. Ah. And who was it you wouldn't let see me? An hour ago? That was the general, sir. I actually did prevent him. And he's not fitting for you. I deeply respect the man, Prince. He's a great man, sir. You don't believe me? Well, you'll see, but all the same it would be better, illustrious prince, if you didn't receive him. But why so, may I ask? And why are you standing on tiptoe now, Lebedev, and always approaching me as if you're about to whisper some secret in my ear? I mean, I feel it, Lebedev answered unexpectedly, beating his breast with feeling. But won't the general be too hospitable for you, sir? Be too hospitable? Hospitable, sir. First of all, he's already planning to live in my house. That's all right, sir, but he's enthusiastic, wants straight off to be like family. We've tried several times to figure out our relation. It turns out we're in-laws. You also turn out to be his nephew twice removed on his wife's side. He explained it to me yesterday. If you're his nephew, it means, illustrious prince, that you and I are related. Never mind that, sir, it's a small weakness, but then he assured me that every day of his life, from when he became a lieutenant through the 11th of June last year, he had never had less than 200 persons sitting at his table. It finally went so far that they never got up, so that they had dinner, and supper, and tea 15 hours a day for 30 years, without the slightest break, with barely time to change the tablecloth. One gets up and leaves, another comes, and on feast days and imperial birthdays the number of guests rose to 300. And on the millennium of Russia, 27 he counted 700 people. It's awful, sir, such stories, it's a very bad sign, sir. To receive such hospitable people is even frightening, and I thought, won't such a man be too hospitable for you and me? But you seem to be on very good terms with him. In a brotherly way, And I take it as a joke, let us be in-laws, the more's the honor for me. Even through 200 persons and the millennium of Russia, I can discern a very remarkable man in him. I'm speaking sincerely, sir. You mentioned secrets just now, Prince, that is, that I supposedly approach you as though I want to tell you a secret, and, as if on purpose, there is a secret. A certain person has sent a message that she wishes very much to have a secret meeting with you. Why secret? On no account. I'll visit her myself, maybe today. On no account, no, on no account, Lebedev waved, and she's not afraid of what you think.